Okay, so originally this assignment was supposed to start with you doing the color wheel. Um, but if you recall, I kind of bumped this part up to the beginning of the still life that we just finished. Um, so the point is to get you just familiar with the color relationships of the color wheel and also how to lighten and darken the colors. Doesn't really tell you all that much about how to mix colors together. Like for instance, it doesn't really tell you much about, what happens when complements get mixed together or even non-complements get mixed together. Like what happens when you mix like a kind of a lime green with a cyan, or it doesn't really tell you about intermixing really. That's the I guess the main flaw with that. But it can't do everything. So you can download this under files, so you don't have to memorize this. So this is what we're going to go over. This is all on one page under files. I forget the title of this thing. I think it's just basic color combinations. This one is not on the list. Achromatic. You can see we don't have it on there, but it has to be a term you're familiar with. Um, I kind of so achromatic just means literally without color, and then I kind of just give you like a kind of somewhat understanding of the root word with the Greek. Read that on your own if you want. Um, so no color, and also using the values of black and white. Here's a classic example. Um, One of my favorite painters, probably my top 10 favorite painters, Gerhard Richter. In the early years, he did tons and tons of black and white studies, um, mostly from just found photos. Like this is just from like a newspaper that he found. Here's another Gerhard Richter. I like showing these in beginning painting a lot to show students how. I mean, I think it's obvious what you're looking at. They're two separate paintings, but they're like cityscapes seen from the sky. And I like showing these because you can always tell that it reads clearly, even though there's no detail and the paint application is really sloppy. I always just try to remind students, as long as you have the drawing correct and the values correct, it'll read as correct, regardless if there's any detail in the image. So monochromatic. Also, this is not on the list, and this is not one of the things that we're going to be using. But it's again, it's terms you need to be familiar with. Um, so it's using only one hue combined with black and white. So whenever you take one color and you combine it with black and white, you should know that's tints and shades. Actually, there's a third one I forget. It's when you combine it with grays. I forget. Anyway, um, so here's the classic example of monochrome. Um, it's the classic cathedrals that Monet did, and it's not really monochromatic. It's not 100% monochromatic because you can see there's yellows in here and violets down here. But people always refer to this as a monochromatic painting, but it's not really. Um, this is a painter that I like, Avery Singer. I think this is more closer to monochromatic. She's using like this pink magenta and then tints and shades of it. She's adding sometimes it looks not necessarily black, maybe even a darker version of the red. You kind of feel like, it might be more than one color, but it looks to me, oops, it looks like a dark magenta, and then she lightens it, and then she just uses black right here, and then she's probably mixing magenta and black for the shadow. She does this unusual thing where it looks she kind of creates these like 3D collages in some kind of 3D rendering program. The kind of looks like a cubist painting or a cubist form, and then but the shadows kind of look realistic. So this is one of them, analogous. So any two colors that are next to each other. So you can see using any two Jason hues. So whenever you see the word hues, just know that's just color, combined with black and white. So it's a of the values of those two colors. So this one, what is this? This is, over here. So you have to imagine you're moving this over. So green and blue is the analogous color scheme of this painting. Very low in saturation, except for this blue tape, and this gray. It looks to me like a complement combination. It doesn't look like black and white. Dyad, using any two hues that are two steps apart on the color wheel. So it's not quite like the analogous, because the analogous is right next to each other. This one, you kind of just imagine you kind of spread this out a little more. You have a one space in between. This next painting I'm going to show you, it's actually, so it's going to be over here. It's going to be like a lime green and orange. It's like a sci-fi illustration. It's really eerie and odd, which is probably what the artist was going for, the kind of like odd color scheme, alien color scheme, I guess. So you can kind of see it's basically like this and this. And it has maybe even a little bit of the blue or green in it. Yeah, like in here. Complements. This is the first one we're going to do. Using any two opposite hues in the color will combine with black and white. And so you can, any color posed, boom, 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 perfectly across from each other. I always think of it as like right across the pond. And so if you think about it this way, like the colors next to each other are closely related to one another. So like this color and this color and this color are in the same family of greens, and green is closer related to yellow than it is to say red. So it's like the further away you get, the less related it is. So that's why they tend to say, it's opposite when it's on the other side of the pond here. Oh yeah, the classic example. I have to put some classics in here. Van Gogh's The Mulberry Tree. This is at the Norton Simon. You should go check it out. It's not that far away. I imagine they're still open even with COVID. I used to live in Pasadena, so this was one of my favorite paintings. I used to always love to stare at. It's very hypnotic and intense. It kind of makes you feel like you're like on drugs when you stare at this thing. It's so vibrant, and part of that effect that he gets with the vibrancy is having the opposites of the blue and the orange, and they, since they're opposite, they tend to like contrast more. So you get the push and pull of those two colors. The orange wants to push forward, and then the blue wants to pull back. Doesn't always necessarily. They always say, blue recedes, cool recedes, and warms come forward. I would say that's true probably 70% of the time, but it is possible to get a cool to come forward. And I know there's other colors in here, but the dominant color scheme is the complementary color scheme. Because I know there's like this lime green in here and red orange, but the dominant color scheme is the complementary color scheme. Here's this one artist that I like. I recently discovered her on Instagram. You should go follow her. She's a really cool painter. I always like how simple and like kind of just psychologically strong they look. So this is a red complementary color scheme. And I know there's other colors in here too. So there's like this looks like a solar eclipse. See, there's blues in here, and there's like gray, blue, water. But the dominant color scheme is this red to green relationship. It's a good trick to use when you really want something to pop forward. Is think about using spatially. Think of it as like, if I want this red to pop forward, having its complement in the background is really going to help push it the most. Like if I put another color in the background as dominant, like if you put orange, it's so like say orange is so close to warm, it's not going to contrast. That's like one of the, I would say it's probably the most common thing I see students do. They're trying to get like spatially things to come forward and recede, but they kind of have the temperature all the same. Everything's warm or everything's cool. And always try to tell them, like, push things, think of like opposites of warms and cools and complements to kind of push and pull things spatially. The triadic or triad. Um, Using any three equally spaced hues on the color wheel, and also your black and whites. Um, this is an interesting one. People usually think of this as the complementary one because you can imagine if you turn this, you can get the blue, red, yellow. But it could be any three colors that are opposite, um, equally spaced, not opposite. This is the classic example people always give, and it's mainly focusing on the figure. So you can see it's blue, yellow, red. So where is that? Yeah, blue, yellow, red. Boom, boom, boom. And here, this will help you see it. I intensified the saturation. So here you go, boom. And yeah, there's other colors. There's like this teal, which is more over here, and there's this kind of orange, But you could say because she's the main focus and she's the largest shape, that's the dominant color scheme. And the bigger space is pretty neutral, so it doesn't really like interfere with the color scheme. And also, I should say, it's a good technique to kind of mute the colors if you want it to be less jarring. Tetrad. This one interests me a lot. It's unusual. So let me read the definition. Using any four equally spaced hues on the color will combine with black and white. So I've also heard people call this as double complementary. So you're probably thinking, I remember when I first heard someone call this double complementaries, I thought, what do they mean? Because like blue and lime green are not opposites, and lime green and orange aren't opposites, but you have to go in the middle. It's blue and orange, and lime green and red violet. It's double complements in that way. Um, it's interesting because you get a lot of colors on the color wheel in um, activated, but you're not. They're all far away from each other, so and it is restrained because it's like you're not using, for instance, in this color scheme, you're not using red really. You're not using regular purple. You're not using yellow. There's lots of like main colors that can sort of be absent, but at the same time you're using a lot of colors. It's kind of an unusual color scheme. And this painter, I pulled this straight off his Instagram. His name is I think his Instagram handle is Zorism, but his name is Zor. If that's his real name, I don't even know. But I like this painting because it's using a lot of color. It's you can see it's like, so let's see here. So here's the violet green. Violet green. It's very grayed out. It's very grayed out violet. Very grayed out green. Though you can see like an more intense violet along here. That's turquoise. That's like the one odd color that I wouldn't count. But so, and then also orange, blue. So you see the blue, all the shadows are pretty much blue, and then orange is sort of the underpainting. You can see the edge. This is a canvas that's been unwrapped and pinned on the wall. So whenever you see the edge like this, that tells you that was the underpainting. He probably painted this whole canvas orange, and then which I do all the time. I always put an underpainting of one color, so you can see the orange peeking out in lots of places along here and here and in here. So orange, blue, violet, green, and it has a very kind of intensity to it, but also it's because it has so many colors in it, but also it's very restrained. There's no red. I mean, the light here is red, but it's like a really brown red. Um, there's no purple. There's like a gray violet. There's no yellow, though, you know, this is the light here is still kind of approaching yellow, but it's not really. Here's another odd painting by Peter Doig. It also is a tetradic color. So I twisted the cube so you can see it's the red, orange, violet, purple. I'm sorry, green, violet. There's the violet, there's the green. Though it isn't a yellowy green, it's more a muted green. And then there is blue in here, but it's a blue that's very close to the violet there. It's an unusual color scheme. These tetradic ones, I find them oddly satisfying, and because they use so many colors, but they're not using all the colors. It almost looks like all the colors are there. You know, like it's almost like a trick. You see all these colors, and you're like, wow, that's all the colors, but it's not really. It's restraining itself in an unusual way. Split complementary. Um, So I always think of this as the Y color scheme. So using three hues and the hue on either side of its complementary. So you can think, so yeah, so orange, the complement is this color, but instead of going to the complement, you split it off and use the two on the side. And this artist, he uses this color scheme a lot. So you can see the green, even though he is kind of using this green, the bluer green down here. But I would say the dominant is the lime green, orange, and then blue sky. And he does, I like this little trick that he does. Whenever he takes a color, so he's using blue, and then he skims in a little bit of the violet. You can see some of the violet in there, which I like. And then he uses, green, and he skims in some yellow. He's doing it again, same artist. So you can see blue, green, violet, orange. See the blue, greens, violet, orange. And he kind of repeats it again here, even though it's kind of a brown orange. Violet, orange, more teal, but green, greenish. Very unusual perspective. It's kind of wonky. I like wonky perspective. And so now I'm going to just talk about the kind of oddball color schemes. This is not on that list. I might have the next part of this assignment be to once we kind of cover the main ones, we can go over some, maybe have you do an oddball color scheme here. I really like these ones because they don't fit into the traditional color schemes. So this is a excuse me, dichromatic, a color scheme possessing or exhibiting two colors. So just any two colors, but not necessarily the traditional two colors like the dyadic or complementary. The colors do not have to conform to the structural relationship such as complementary color scheme or any of the other ones we went over. So you kind of see it's almost like split complementary, but it's not. It's just this and this. You can imagine taking any, so like the other ones we went over, the ones that are side by side, where there's a gap. So the minute you kind of start having them further apart, it doesn't really fit into any category. But it's still a color scheme. And I'm going to show you this painting by Lisa Yuskavage. You kind of see it's got lime green and pink. And it's even kind of yellow in there, but let's just see. So it's this and this, because red is pink. And it creates kind of just an odd color scheme. Trichromatic. So same thing. It's like three colors, but again, this isn't. It's not split. It's like looks like a bent split complementary, and it's just this kind of odd spacing of colors. So this color scheme consists of three colors. Often it's used to refer to red, green, blue color receptors in the human vision. So I found a painting that actually uses this color scheme. So let me show you. So it has this kind of lime green, blue, and that's actually brown instead of orange. Let me show it to you. It's the Matisse painting. So I'm counting this brown as orange. So lime green, blue, So you can see blue, lime green, brown. And it's kind of odd. It has an odd quality to it. I kind of find all these ones kind of have an odd quality to them. This one, look how it's kind of eerie, unsettling. It might have something to do with the subject matter too, but it's also the color scheme too. Split analogous. So again, it's just for spacing in between. Let me just read the definition. A color scheme using three colors of a fixed configuration where two colors are one space away from the main rather than being adjacent. Examples would be yellow, orange, and green, and red, violet, or red, violet, blue, violet, and red, orange. I kind of always think of this as just kind of occupying almost half of the color wheel where they're just evenly spaced. And this painting example that I found, it would only work on a magenta color wheel. So you can imagine magenta being in between here. Let me show it to you. So it's like magenta, orange, blue. So it's kind of like blue, magenta, orange. It's like it would be sort of here. Boom. But you have to, magenta isn't on this color wheel. You can kind of see magenta, orange, blue. You know, it's all like occupying one half of that color wheel. And look how the size of this painting. It's 5 inches by 5 inches. It's kind of unusual. Okay, now get to work.